So I have been on a big heavy duty clutter clearing mission here lately. And I mean, I've been back at my parents' house since 2019, so we're at 5 years now, or 5.5, and still have a ton of shit in boxes. Like, I never completely unpacked because I never knew when I was going to be leaving. Obviously, um, it is not my plan to be staying here forever, by any means. About 15 ish years ago, I remember putting out the intention that at some point, in some way, the ridiculous amount of clutter that has been collected over the years, that I would finally get around to getting it out of here. And apparently, there was so much healing work that had to be done first. And making space to have the capacity to deal with the junk that has just energies of the past connected to it. So that was a whole process in and of itself. So, I painted my room a while back because I wanted to rearrange, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that made me want to fix the mess that had happened. Um, so in, in December 2017, I left my ex for a span of 9 months. We were still in communication, and I was still working on helping to organize shit for his custody battle that he was going through. After I spent like 6 months just combing through everything and building like this really tight case, and finding him a new attorney and sending him all the information that I had, um, a whole big ordeal. And daily, like, he would come back home and be like, "What'd you do today?" "Nothing," that kind of stuff. So I got to a point where, come December, I was in desperate need of a break and getting away from all the nonsense. So I came back up here, and the first thing I did, I had packed a lot of my stuff, most of my stuff, and my parents had to help me move it back up here. But um, the first thing that I wanted to do was like new paint on the walls, and immediately, like, I was drawn to the color indigo, and I was thinking of it as a color that represents, um, I want to say, third eye chakra, um, connecting with higher energies, even though I wasn't completely into that path at that point in time. That was kind of my motivation for the color. So I ended up with indigo walls and turquoise trim. And I don't think there was a particular meaning behind the turquoise. I just really liked the two colors together. So that was my room. And at the time, that was the only room I had. um, a couple of years ago, my mom was like, "Well, if you clear the stuff out of your brother's old room, you can have that too." So I took over that room for a while. That was my office, and my room was my room. But I had bird cages in there and all that stuff. And eventually I got to the point where it's like, maybe it would be more relaxing to have the birds in the office space and, not have to be hanging out in the same room with them all the time. Um, so I moved my bed and the office. And then, after a while, I ended up with a new desk that I love. And that's like the first thing that I really manifested, um, because it was kind of an accidental thing when it started. Like, I knew at some point I wanted a better desk than what I had, because I had this little $35 clearance find from IKEA that was, it's just a metal frame with a glass top, and it has like one little shelf. It's a little writing table. And then I had the desk that my mom had used when she went to school a few years ago, and I didn't love it. It was useful for the time, but I knew that at some point I wanted to get a better desk. I figured maybe somewhere closer to the time that I would be out on my own. But it didn't happen that way. But um, where was I going? Okay, so I had this thought that maybe I would get another desk, and every now and then I'd go on like the Facebook Marketplace and kind of browse around a little bit, and then I was like, well, I don't have any space for that. Didn't want to consider having to sell stuff and go through stuff to purge it and all that fun stuff, because that's a whole project in and of itself. Um, but then one day, like, I was over at my grandparents' house, and it was a Sunday, so my mom and her sisters and all their spouses, and then whatever of the grandkids were nearby, which is usually me and the youngest sister's son. Sometimes the others are around, usually for birthdays and stuff. But, we're over there, and I think they started talking about politics, and I don't have time for politics. It's all just a load of shit. A bunch of people, a bunch of talking heads using big keywords to get one side to vote for them and piss the other side off and blah, blah, blah. It's just a waste of time to me. And not a single one of them cares about actually making any changes in the world. So step off. Anyway. So that, I started browsing the marketplace just so I could like shut it out, because since then I have learned if I'm going to be around anybody where I know the conversation can go to that kind of stuff, then I take headphones now, even though I can only use them on one side because that thing's still healing, and it makes it feel really weird when I have an earbud in there and it's like vibrating. I don't like it. So, I only get headphones on the one side. But, at the time, I didn't have that. So I started looking around on Marketplace, and that was something that I had thought about recently. So I threw it out in the search tab and started looking around to see what was available. And I found this one desk that had a hutch that I liked. And I really liked corner desks with the hutch on one side. And this one was not the corner, it was just like a desk with a hutch. And I liked it, but I didn't love it because it wasn't what I would want in a desk. But I accidentally clicked the button to request more information. Like I shifted or something, or sitting in the like when they have the window seat behind a puzzle table. I'm usually over there doing puzzles and stuff, and I was distracted with the phone and all that fun stuff, and accidentally clicked I'm interested, and I was like, oh crap. And I was like, well, you know what, okay, so if the guy responds then and it's available, then maybe we'll see what happens. And because I don't really believe in accidents, never really have, so if I did this thing and it ends up hey, it's still available, then maybe. Thankfully, it was not, because it was not the one that I ended up with. But, like, it started this journey where, like, I started looking around at desks and really trying to decide what I would want in a desk. And I found this one that was located up in Carmel, Indiana. And I don't like going up to Carmel to drive around in because there's so many roundabouts. It makes me kind of car sick. So I really didn't want to think about hauling a trailer up there to contend with roundabouts and or that many roundabouts, and it's just chaotic. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not something I would want to drive a trailer with a big desk on through all this area. It's just more trouble than it's worth. But I really liked the desk. And it was a corner desk, and it had a hutch on one side, and the way the people had it set up was like it was cherry wood, but like the hutch was like the espresso color, and I just really liked how it looked together. But a couple $100, and it was up in Carmel, and I did not want to deal with the roundabouts, as I said. So it's like I think that one I found on what the heck's the app? I'll put that on my toe. I don't know. There's some OfferUp. So I was looking at OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace at that time, and that one was on OfferUp, and I sent a message, was thinking maybe we could find somewhere, even if we went way out of our way, to find straight roads without big ass roundabouts. Maybe we could find a way to come home easier if it worked out. They never responded, or well, they did eventually, but it was like a month later. So at that time, I was really drawn to this particular type of desk, and I don't know what brand it is or anything, but it's got like the desk part is the corner, and I have this wall in my office that the window is on, but like from the corner over to the window, it was like exactly the perfect size for this desk. And I was like, I really want that desk. So I started looking for that desk in other places, and it started showing up like a lot. And I don't even remember like all the details of how I found it now, but I know when I was looking, most of the ones that I found, it was like $200. It's like, that's all right. Then I found one that it was just the desk, but for $50, but you have to, disassemble and move it. And I think it was on like a second floor, and I wasn't that interested in moving it with, my dad and my uncle helped me, and that was fine. But for the three of us to navigate stairs with how heavy the pieces were when they were taken apart, no thank you. But it also didn't have the hutch. But I started looking around how much would the hutch cost new. And it was like, I want to say it was like $600 or something. It's like, not ideal. But if I was motivated at some point later on down the line, I could always, get that later, or just shop around till I found one used, or whatever. So I had options. I found it in a couple different colors, and it's like, oh, I really like the cherry coloring, and there's always have. And, there was one that I found that was in Greenwood, which was like 35 minutes from my house. It's like, okay, that one I really liked. And it was all the cherry wood. Lady had it marked for $200, but it was pending. So I sent her a message, and she said if the other person put money down on it, but if it happened to fall through for any reason, then she'd let me know. And I continued looking, and before, like almost right before she responded, I was kind of like, oh shit, because I found this other one that's in Connersville, which is like an hour away, and it was for free. It's like, oh, obviously I gotta have this desk, right? So I'm talking to the lady, and my dad had not yet retired at that point in time, so he got home from work. I was like, how would you feel about going to Connersville for a desk? And he was just like, but he wasn't opposed. And then I shortly after I'm talking to this other lady, the first lady that I had sent the message to, the one that had it in Greenwood for $200, she was like, well, she responded and said somebody was already interested and it had money down on it. And it's like, good. Don't want that one anymore. So we made an evening of it. And I had to drag my brother into helping get it situated with the location in my office, because that was a whole ordeal. Obviously, I had to clean a bunch of stuff. We just moved the trailer, like we moved the car out of the garage and put the trailer with the desk on it in the garage, which was really helpful because it was able to give me a couple days to clean stuff enough to get it in there. I wanted to clean the carpet because where I wanted to put the desk, the birds had been, and birds just birds are everywhere. Yeah, so I really wanted to clean the carpet and wipe the walls down and all that fun stuff. So it worked out, and it worked out really well because I was thinking, since this desk came out of somebody else's house, they'd had it for a good while, and she said she loved the desk, but they had 5 kids and needed another bedroom, so they were gonna turn their office space into another bedroom for the kids. So she just wanted it out of the house. I was stoked. That worked out really well for me. And it was funny because there was a day, or one night, like I was looking on Marketplace and kind of bouncing around from these different, the different options that I was coming across. It's like, it would be nice if I could just find one for free. That would be like freaking ideal. I mean, most of them were $200, and I had no problem paying that if I had to, but throwing it out for the universe that, hey, if there's a free one available, send it my way. Without even realizing that that's what I was doing. But that's what I was doing. So it worked out. I got a free desk, and I love that desk. And I had time to, I got the carpet cleaned in my office space, and then also was able to sage the desk so I could get any energies that were stuck to it out of the space, right? So yeah, so I got this desk, and that was the first big thing that I really saw manifestation in action. Ooh, I can manifest things. It took about 2 weeks for that particular project, but had a leaf fall on my foot. It was. I've been wall-to-wall furniture since I moved back. So I said that I painted the room indigo back when I came up here the first time before I left my ex for good. And I was here for 9 months, but in that time, at least once a month, I would go back. Either I would end up back down there or he would come back up here because of the custody, the court shit that was going on. He would come up here, I think 3 or 4 months in a row. And then there were a couple months that I went down there. I wanted to go to the beach on my birthday, so went to the beach on my birthday. Well, not completely. Went to the beach a couple days before my birthday because since the custody battle was not complete at that point in time, my brother-in-law and his daughter were there. I talked to them. It's like, hey, you haven't had the chance to go down there. Do you want to go see the house and, hang out for a little bit? So they went with me to Alabama in July. And because he needed to be back for something for work, I think actually on my birthday, I ended up spending my birthday driving. Well, we left the night before, but but still, I got to spend the week of my birthday a lot of time on the beach. So that was a happy thing. Yeah. And then in August, I went down, and I knew it had to be the one last hurrah. I had to show myself and him, and everybody else that I was making the effort, and I took all my stuff back down there. So, as these things started coming up, and I was like, yep, this is definitely not going to work. One of the things that happened when I was up here for the 9 months was, that was when my friend Tyler died, and I started writing letters to him all the time, and it ended up being this big healing experience. And I was clearing out room for like all the shit that I had not been able to process through because I just had like closed the door on it. It's like, nope, don't want to ever think about that one because don't want to take the chance that anybody else would find out, whatever, you know. And so when I started processing through it and realizing that the shit that had happened, first off, was not exactly what I had been under the under the impression had happened as a traumatized 8-year-old who with just a bunch of stuff that, you know, just, well, I've talked about it before. I'm not going back to it because that's that's ancient history, and I've already processed through it on this channel before, and I will leave those videos up. So if anybody wants to go back to my older stuff, you can see like the the crap I've been processing through. But after Tyler died, I started doing like all this big healing work, and yeah, my phone just popped up an alert that my aunt was calling me. I'm sure she wants me to check on her cats later because she decided to go out of town on short notice and didn't think about having me tend to them, but that's all fine. You know, she's next door, so whatever. And it's a short trip. So when I was writing these letters, I was doing some of the early healing work that I needed to do. And I think that when I did finally go back to Alabama, it had cleared enough out of my system where I didn't feel like complete shit about myself. Whereas when I got into the relationship in the first place, I kind of did. And that's the only reason I ended up in that relationship at all, was because I felt so bad about myself and was at a place where it was kind of like, well, yeah, my great grandma had always been pushing the idea of you got to snatch one of the good ones up before they're all taken. And it's like, eh. It's like, even though I could say grandma things aren't that rushed anymore, you know, it's still kind of, I think, screwed with my head a little bit. So after I started doing this healing stuff with after Tyler's death, it made some more room, so I was able to basically try to navigate my way back to finding who I was again. That was the biggest thing. So like we'd have like these things that would pop up, like, you know, catching him actively lying to me. Like he bought a water monitor from a shady company that probably caught a sick one out in the wild. So they sent it to him and it died. So they sent him a replacement. And then he ended up with a Tegu from another place, but he claimed it was the same place and that they had sent it as a gift because the water monitors hadn't worked out. It's like, it's like, I am pretty confident you're lying, and at the same time, I have no evidence of that, so I just kind of shrugged it off until I found the receipts for it. Yep. So that was a whole ordeal too. He got, I think, a healthy water monitor from a different company, probably the one that he got the Tegu from as well. But after I ended up back in Alabama with him, there was a day where I had to go to the post office to pick up this water monitor in the box, and I was pissed off about it, and he admitted that the only reason he was telling me about it was because it would eventually be too big to hide. It's like, well, he already paid for it, so I had to go pick it up. Yeah. But like, just these little things started adding up. It's like, all right, checklist That's not going to work for me. That's not going to work for me. That's not going to work for me. Lying about the Tegu is not going to work for me. Just buying lizards that get over 6 feet in length and need their own freaking room of the house or whatever. That's not going to work for me. He bought a doll off eBay that the post claimed was demonic. It was demonically possessed. It's like I didn't know exactly what I felt about whether an evil spirit could possess something, but now that I definitely think energies can attach to things, but I think our interpretation of the energies is more the key point. And since I've always been sensitive to energies and didn't realize what I was reacting to, yeah, that was a thing. So he got the stupid doll without talking to me. Told me after it was already shipped that it was coming. It's like, not okay. And then he ends up getting custody of his son. It's like, not okay. It's a lot of not okay. But he had this idea for a time that we could be like Ed and Lorraine Warren. And it's like, you sir are no Ed Warren. Not that I know him personally or anything, but just what they were doing from the stories I've heard of what they were doing, and to try to like pull me into it without talking to me about it. It was just kind of yeah, that wasn't okay. But at the time I wasn't sure, like I said, I wasn't sure what I felt about whether something could have a demon attached to it or whatever. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff I can go with on that end. But I think this video is going to get cut off here real quick. Anyway, so stupid doll. That was big not okay. I had a job briefly. It was kind of a DoorDash-esque job, but with a different company. And after we got his kid down there, they would have conversations in the car with what they were going to do with my paychecks. It's like, oh, we could get a gym membership and all this stuff. It's like, I don't get consulted with where the money I'm contributing to this whole thing is going. That's, again, not okay. Yeah. We're going to see if there's getting ready to be a kid out here. There might be, and if there is, I'm cutting this off. Or I might go in the other room, or go back in my room until I'm done with it. Anyway, no, I don't want that. So, there was that. Then one day, I was really irritated with something he was doing in the car. And so I was kind of quietly singing to the corner of the car, and he gets all big and puffs up and he says, what was it? Something to the effect of, I let you sing in the car on your birthday, but it's my birthday now, and I don't want you singing. It's like, excuse me? Who the fuck do you think you are that you can control whether I choose to sing quietly to myself in the car? Because, like, I'm pretty confident it was not even, like, hardly audible at all. But that was, for some reason, that one was the one that really pissed me off more than anything. His birthday was in August, so that was the start of my time back there, before all the rest of this stuff. I started keeping this checklist of how I knew it wasn't going to work. That was one of my starting points. And then I feel like because of the healing that I was able to do in that span of time, when I had been back up here before going back down there for the one last hurrah. I think that's why I was able to get away when I eventually did finally disconnect all the way. Yeah. So, as I was getting ready to leave back then, that was another thing that I did. Like, I was going through my closet and combing through stuff. It's like, never gonna wear this again, never gonna wear this again. So I had a big stack of stuff I was gonna donate. I was just finding anything I didn't want while I was packing up the stuff that I did. And when I had left in 2017, I basically left the stuff in the front room, and when he found out, he ended up unpacking a bunch of my shit. So it's like, I knew that wasn't gonna work. So I got my little job, my little paycheck, and I had it to where $75 from each paycheck each week would go to the joint account, and the rest would go to my account, so I could pay for the storage unit and start packing my stuff and getting it out of the house, starting with stuff that he wasn't able to find. I got my own bank account, so I could have it going out of my bank account and him not know about it. And I avoided telling him for a while because I knew he would make my life a living hell as soon as he found out that I was leaving for good. So yeah. But that is like a big energetic shift with the emotional clutter clearing, and then followed through with some physical clutter clearing. And it's like the two go hand in hand, because that's what I've been doing. Like I decided, what started me in all this, I got to a point a while back where I wanted to rearrange my room or my office. So I knew I wanted to paint because there were holes in the wall that needed to be patched, and I didn't want having holes in the wall, but I was out of that color of paint. So that's how I ended up with my Jackson Pollocky office space, and loved it. And it was like I did the emotional clutter clearing, been doing the healing work, and then something happened to get me going on physical clutter clearing, and then it becomes an art project and a creative thing, and it just really exciting. And I think painting my room this time around was the most fun I've had with a particular paint job or art project in a long time. So, and maybe ever. Probably ever. So yeah. I have been, it goes back and forth because it's like I'll spend time with some of the energetic clearing that's got to happen, and then I'll shift to the physical clutter clearing. And this week I decided that I want a usable closet, because my closets, one of them is kind of storage for like a bunch of old stuff, like stuff out of my great grandma's house, blankets and sheets and stuff, and just like, it's not my stuff. Some of it is, but not all of it. So the other one, it's like, well, this is all my stuff, and I don't want it all just being junked up. I want a usable closet. So I decided I was going to clear out the stuff that was in there, and a lot of it, I had like 2 plastic totes that have a ton of CDs. One is just all CDs, so last night I spent time going through those and compiling the collection of Christian music CDs and putting them in a big box. And I'm just like, I posted it as kind of like a bulk, here, take this, it'd be perfect for a freaking youth group or something. I don't want it. Get it out of my space. And maybe give me a little money if possible. If not, then I'll Goodwill those bad boys before I'm done. But right now we're going to start there. Um, but it's been a project. So like today, or a few weeks ago, I brought in a couple other of my storage boxes from the shed and was going through those, and it's like, why am I even keeping most of the shit? Last night I went through a box that had a bunch of like electronics and stuff, like old speakers and whatnot. It's like, okay, I don't want this stuff. Clearly I'm not using it, so maybe it's time to just get rid of it. So I have a box for electronics recycling that I am really excited to get out of my space. We have, of course, the very popular Goodwill box, just get shit gone. So my mom has a friend that's coming up for their class reunion this weekend, and I guess she's wanting to stay at our house one night. So we gotta do big cleaning work, and Mom's like, well, we gotta spend all week on this place and getting it in right shape for her to come over. It's like, okay, first off, why are you hanging out with people that you're so touchy about seeing your existence? Or yeah, both. Yeah, both. Why are you hanging out with people that you're so touchy about, but also why do you just allow the freaking clutter you don't want when you know you don't want just the mess to stay? It's time to go. So, yeah. So that's my big project here lately. And then, it's when I was in the shed the other day, I pulled out this lamp that my great grandma used to have, and now it's just in our storage, or it was. And it's like, you know what? I could use this because I just moved my one lamp out of my bedroom and into the office, and I don't know. It's an art project now. So we went from basil to this aubergine color, which I like way better. However, I ran out of spray paint, so I'm gonna have to pause that project until tomorrow because tomorrow's payday, so I can go get more spray paint. Yeah, but that's my plan. So it's like art project, clutter clearing, emotional clutter clearing. And there's been like some things that I've been making connections on. Just like the energetic stuff, and there's a lot of that too. Yeah, but it's like they all go hand in hand, and I love that they are. And then like this intention I set like 15 years ago or whatever to get rid of junk is finally just has to happen because energetically I can't handle it in my space anymore. And I wrote something a few years ago, like we used to have this one shed that the floor like fell out of. It was a hot mess. It was we had it was okay, it was the garden outdoor type shed junk, and then we got the new shed, and then completely lost the floor, which I mean after 40-ish years, 35-ish I guess, yeah, it makes sense that at some point if you're not tending to it and you're just throwing shit in there, something's gonna happen, right? So something happened and the bottom fell out, and there were birds and mice living in there more than anything. So we ended up a few years ago, since I moved back after my divorce, or ready to get my divorce, we got a new shed. So now the former new shed is now the old shed, and it is now the the garden stuff storage. And then the other one has, like my stuff that I moved back from Alabama. But I got like all this kitchen stuff from like that were wedding gifts and whatnot. It's like I have no sentimental attachment to these things. I'm ready for them to go. The problem is every time I start deciding I'm ready for something to go, okay, like one of the boxes that I unpacked yesterday is this Foot Locker that I've had since I was an undergrad. I had it in the dorm, and I was going to sell it for $30. It's in great shape. And my mom's like, I think it would be more beneficial if we put some stuff in it. You could always put like your winter clothes or whatever, and it's like my totes are working out just fine for that. And I like having the different colors to know what's what and all that fun stuff. So I don't want another thing to just collect junk, because that's mostly been my personal junk drawer for years, but it's just shit that goes in the closet for storage because I don't know what it is, or I might need it one day. I'm tired of holding on to stuff like that. So, and energetically, oh my gosh, like this lamp project, I'm really excited. Especially like after I hit it with the colors starting out and loved how it was starting to look. I went from like this weird, ugly 50-year-old basil green color and that off-white that just looks yellowish because it's so old, to now it's like aubergine and black. I like those. It's not done. It's still got basil, but yeah, I'll get there. But yeah, I am loving this clutter clearing project, and it's funny because I just see how things that I set intentions for years ago are finally coming around, and it's like, oh, I cleared some junk, and now I'm able to clear more junk, and now it's clearing physical junk, and making me feel like I can do artsy stuff with the stuff I do want to hang on to. So, win-win. Yeah, but I think I'm going to wrap this up because, well, for one, my niece is here in the house. She apparently did not know I was outside. I figured she would have seen me when they pulled up, but there's trees, so apparently I blend in despite being all colorful. Yeah. Um, I don't blend real well, but apparently I can when I want to. Or we're just also oblivious. There's some of that too. Anyway, we'll call it for now. And as always, I appreciate you. And until the next time, see you later.